Hello, it's Sharon Jameson, and today is I Dare You Day number 19. I Dare You Day number 19. And so I wanted to give you some ideas about what I want to dare you about today. Because today I want to dare you to determine if you have healthy boundaries in your life. I dare you to determine if you have healthy boundaries in your life. And the reason is this. It is so easy to get distracted and to be derailed and to be disrupted when we are doing what we know to do to better our lives or to do what we know to do to answer our divine calling or to move forward toward our destiny. And oftentimes, if we don't have good margins around our lives, or good margins around our relationships, or good margins around our dreams, we allow ourselves to get distracted, we allow ourselves to be disrupted, and as a result, we will fail to do what we have been ordained to do, and we will fail to be as successful as we know to be. Hey, V. Chanel, thanks so much for joining me. Well, I use a method or framework to ensure that I have healthy boundaries in my life. And I use this framework called Get.B.A.C.K. The acronym is called Get.B.A.C.K. And I use that framework to help me discern and decide if something belongs in my life or if something or somebody or some activities don't belong in my life. And the first G is for Get.B.A.C.K. is for gadgets. G is for gadgets. The truth is we have allowed many of us have allowed technology just to overrun our lives. We have, iPhones and iPads and computers and Androids and all types of Xboxes and Blackberries. We have all these gadgets. And many times we allow those gadgets to be in places that there should not be. For example, the bedroom or at the kitchen table. And so we have to be mindful that there have to be boundaries of where we take our gadgets so we don't lose our connections with the people who mean the most to us. So we need to think about, are we allowing gadgets in places that they don't belong? And that's in our relationships, that's at the dinner table, that's in our bedroom, that's in some of our meetings. So do we need to have boundaries so that gadgets don't be in places where they don't belong? The second thing, the E is for email. The truth is, email is a beast. And we can answer email every day, all day, and never be done. So one of the ways that we can put boundaries around our email is to put blocks of time where we answer our emails and put an autoresponder so people know we will answer email once or twice a day in the morning, afternoon. Because if not, just how many times have you started, answering your email and you tell yourself, oh, I'm only going to answer email for 10 minutes, and you look around, it's an hour has passed and you have not been productive. So we need to put boundaries around our email so email does not start to encroach or impede our productivity. The T is that we have to put boundaries around time wasters. Hey, Gwen. And time wasters are people, places, and things and activities that make us lose momentum. For example, there are some people in our lives who are time wasters, and all they do is call us, but they're not really talking about anything. They just call us, taking up our energy, taking up our time, and they're really not doing anything in their lives. So we got to be careful that we don't allow people who don't have goals to affect us or impede us from achieving our goals. Another time waster is activities that we do habitually, but they don't yield any fruit. Everything we do should have a return on investment. Every relationship, every activity, every organization where we give our time, talent, and treasure should have some type of return on investment. And return on investment is never just money. Maybe it might make us happier, it might make us smarter, it might make us broader. So we need to think about, are we giving people, places, things, activities who are time wasters access to us? And so we need to really think about that in our lives. The B for in that Get.B.A.C.K. acronym is we need to ask ourselves, are we allowing too many what I call bottom dwellers in our life? Bottom dwellers. Those are people who are filled with gossip. They filled with negativity, pessimism. They always got something bad to say about their lives or the lives of others. And they're just bottom dwellers. They don't add anything to your life. They are drama kings, drama queens. They always keep mess going. They're just messy people. And we got to make sure that we don't allow that energy in our lives, because mess is contagious. And if we allow people in our lives who are messy, who like to instigate and agitate and frustrate and do all the things, instead of really working on their lives, we need to eliminate those types of people and have boundaries so they don't have access to us. And the A is for people, what I call advocates. Those are people who will not, absolutely refuse to accept responsibility for their lives. And what they do is that they want us to do their living for them. They want us to take a leadership role in our lives. I believe people who abdicate are emotionally needy and emotionally greedy. They need a ride, they need a loan, they need to talk, they need to come over, they need. And the problem is those are people who make withdrawals in places that they don't make investments. And if we're not careful, we will allow those people to impede our boundaries and start really taking our energy and depleting us. And depleted people become defeated people. So we got to ask ourselves, do we have those types of people in our lives? And then the C is for people who are just critics. Hey Monique, hey Sherry. Those are people, if we allow in our lives, they always have something negative to say. They always want to critique what we wear, critique our jobs, critique our performance. And the challenge is they are critiquing us, that they really are not doing anything productive in their own lives. It's okay for people to give us feedback, because we all have blind spots and we all can be better. But there's a difference between giving feedback to help people correct something and create something versus people giving feedback just to condemn you. And let me tell you, we got to be careful with people who just come in our life and critique. It's interesting. One of my people always like to tell me if I send a mistake in an email. Oh, Sharon, you had a punctuation mistake. Well, why are you worrying about my one mistake when you're doing absolutely nothing in your own life? So be mindful when people are always wanting to give you feedback. Just know that if they're not doing anything in their life, don't even listen. Because people who are average people want you to be average with them, because misery likes company. And so if there are people who always have something to say, not to elevate you, but to really make you feel badly about how you are showing up in the world, cut them off. You don't need that type of energy. You don't need anything that fills you with self-doubt. You don't need anything that fills you with fear. You don't need anything that makes you hesitant to answer your divine call. And the last K is for people who like to knock you down. Those are people in your life who love to remind you of when you failed. I love to remind you of something that you did in your past, as if you don't remember yourself. I have people in my life, and I've been very honest that I have struggled with the eating disorder in my life. And I had one of people who, she used to be my friend, and she said, Sharon, do you remember when you used to be fat? Ha, 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 ha. And I looked at her as, I'm thinking, what part of that is funny? I asked her. But it was her way of trying to knock me down or try to help me remember a place, because she felt so low about herself. The only way to make herself feel good is to bring me down. But I'm okay with it. You know, I share the story. I'm not embarrassed by it. I'm not embarrassed of any of the challenges that I've had in my life. I share those with other people. So we have to be careful and always use that acronym of G.E.T.B.A.C.K. G.E.T.B.A.C.K. So that people don't encroach and impede in places where they don't belong. Everybody does not deserve access to you, and everybody does not, and every issue does not deserve your attention. So we got to be very mindful to use that acronym. Again, the G is for watch how often gadgets encroach in your life. We got to make sure we watch our gadgets. E, be careful and control email. Don't let email control you. T, watch people who just constantly waste your time with their drama, with their problems, with their concerns. People who don't add any value to their lives because they're not adding value to themselves. And if people are not adding value to themselves, they can never add value to you. The B is for people who are bottom dwellers. They love gossip. They love innuendo. They like to agitate and instigate because they don't have anything going on in their lives, so they like to drum up trouble in yours. People who like to abdicate their responsibility of their life to you, and so they blame and they name. But the challenge is they won't take a leadership role in their own lives, and they want you to do for them what they fail to do for themselves. And so, but you don't want people in your life like that, because they're really emotionally needy and emotionally greedy, and they become dependent. See, watch people who are critics. It's okay to be a coach, but you can't just criticize me. And if you're going to criticize me, tell me where I fail and tell me how I can get back up. If you can't tell me where I fall, and tell me how to get back up, I don't want to hear it, because I don't want to hear just blanket condemnation without giving me some ideas or options for me to prove. And then K, watch people who just want to knock you down and try to remind you of all the things that you did wrong, or all the ways that you failed and faltered in your life. Hey, Sherry. So remember, we need to have good boundaries. So I challenge you to have good boundaries in your life. I dare you to eliminate any person, place, thing, behavior, idea that fails to honor you and fails to support you and sustain you. And always remember, when it comes to people, being in your life is not a guaranteed position. It is a great privilege. I'm going to say that again. Being in your life should never be a guaranteed position. It is a great privilege. And when people abuse the privilege by showing up crazy, they have to go. We should never allow people or make room for people to behave badly in our lives. We should never accommodate dysfunction. We should never accommodate cray-cray. We should never make room for pathology. We can't make room and allow people to behave badly in our lives. Hey, Kendra. So I just want to encourage you and dare you to look at your life. Find out who are the time wasters and the bottom dwellers. Find out who are people who like to sabotage you and not support you. Find out who is in your life and eliminate them. You don't need to be distracted. You don't need to be derailed. You don't need to be disturbed. You don't need to be devalued. You don't need to be demeaned. You don't need to be disappointed. You don't need any of that. If something is not going to elevate you and activate you and call you to be who you know that you can be, and if people can't believe for you to help you become what you say that you want to become, they don't deserve a place in your life. Everybody does not deserve access to you. And people can have access to you based on their ability to show up. So have boundaries. Make sure your boundaries are not flimsy, because people don't need to come and go. But make sure your boundaries are flexible enough to allow people to come in when they have demonstrated that they have the ability to be mature and spiritual minded and growth minded, and people who have the spirit of confidentiality, they can come in. But also make sure their boundaries are flexible enough that people have to move out, because if people cannot play their position as a partner, as a friend, as a confidant, as an ally, they have to be pushed out. Remember, you have boundaries, not borders, but they need to be flexible, but not flimsy, not flappy, so that you can have control over your life, so you can do what God has called you to do. So honor your boundaries, delete who needs to be deleted, and so that you can do all that you have been called to do. So let's dare to soar higher as we make boundaries that help us be all that God will have us to be. So I dare you to make healthy boundaries in your life so you can answer your divine call. Yes? Blessings to you always. Let's dare to soar higher. Thank you, Kendra, Monique, and Gwen, and Sherry, and V. Chanel, and Teresa for joining me. And if this